Think about the classroom you grew up in. Now picture one today. We've gone from chalkboards to smartboards, but is all this new technology actually improving how we learn? That's what we're here to explain.
Yeah, this is the question, isn't it? Whether you're a teacher, a parent, or even a student, you've probably wondered about this. We're swimming in all these incredible digital tools, but are they really helping us learn, or are they just making everything way more complicated? Let's try and unpack that. So, first things first, let's just appreciate how massive this change has been. You know that old school picture of a classroom, silent kids, perfect rows, teacher at the front? Well, that's pretty much gone. Now we've got these dynamic, sometimes chaotic, collaborative spaces just filled with screens and devices. The classroom has officially gone digital.
Okay, so before we dive any deeper, we've got to make sure we're all speaking the same language. Let's get some key definitions down. I mean, what is EdTech really?
All right, here's the official take on it from the Association for Educational Communications and Technology. But listen to the key words they use: strategic and ethical. Right away, that tells you this isn't just about throwing the latest shiny gadget at a student and hoping for the best. No, it's about being thoughtful, being purposeful with how we use this stuff. So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, it means EdTech is way more than just fun and games. It's a really disciplined approach. We're talking about using collaboration, tracking how students are doing, building on what they already know, and really just making traditional learning better. The whole point is to improve the final outcome. It's all about being intentional.
And then there's this other term you'll hear a lot: interactive technology. This is more about the actual tools, the apps, the games, the social media platforms. It's all about creating an experience that's centered on the user. I like to think of it like this: EdTech is the overall game plan, and interactive tech is the specific plays you call to win.
Okay, so we've got the what down. Now let's get into the why. Why is this stuff supposed to work in the first place? This is where it gets really fascinating.
And you might be surprised to hear this, but the roots of modern EdTech, they actually go all the way back to World War II. Seriously. This quote here points to how huge of an impact a pretty simple idea had. The idea that we learn better when we use sight and sound together. Yep, the very first versions of what we'd call EdTech were things like old-school training films, the ones on projectors, and even early TV. These were the OG audio-visual tools, used to train and educate huge numbers of people at once.
And the theory behind it is super intuitive, right? It just makes sense. Our brains are wired to hold on information better when we can see it and hear it at the same time. You're engaging more senses, and that just leads to a deeper understanding. Simple as that.
But of course, it's not as simple as just playing a video. That's not enough. The real leap forward from those old films to today's online courses is adding guided interaction. And this is where the human teacher comes roaring back into the picture.
Which brings us to a really important framework by a woman named Gilly Salmon. It's her 5-stage model, and it's basically a roadmap for online learning. It shows you how to take a student from just logging in all the way to actually learning. So stage 1, access and motivation. That's just getting them in the door and comfortable. Stage 2 is online socialization, letting them build a little community. Then you get to stage 3, information exchange. This is where the real content starts flowing. That builds up to stage 4, knowledge construction, where students are actually working together to build new ideas. And finally, stage 5, development, where they become self-sufficient learners. See, it's a structured journey, not just throwing them into the deep end.
All right, the theory sounds fantastic, but what happens when the rubber meets the road? When these tools are actually in the classroom? Let's take a look at the reality of it all, the good and, well, the bad.
Let's start on a high note. When this stuff is done right, the results can be pretty amazing. Some studies report a 60%, that's huge, a 60% increase in student engagement. We're talking about more kids raising their hands, asking questions, and just being genuinely involved.
And it's not just about engagement. It actually goes deeper. A full 70% of both students and teachers say it has a positive effect on motivation. For students, that's that inner drive to want to learn. And for teachers, it's that spark, that excitement of finding a new way to really connect with the class.
But as you probably guessed, it's not all sunshine and roses. This is really a double-edged sword. On the one hand, you get these awesome benefits like more engagement and learning that can be tailored to each kid. But on the other hand, you've got some really serious challenges like constant distractions, the issue of access and fairness, and just how hard it is to get it right. Let's dig into those challenges a bit more. We're talking about the obvious stuff, like kids getting distracted by social media or games. But it's also about things like shoddy equipment that just makes things harder, or teachers who, through no fault of their own, just haven't been trained on how to use these new tools effectively.
And maybe the biggest one of all, the digital divide. The reality that some students just don't have internet or a device at home. These are not minor issues, they're huge hurdles.
So, with all those challenges on the table, where do we go from here? What's the answer? Well, this brings us to our final section, and honestly, it might be the most important one. It's all about the human element.
Because here's the bottom line. The technology, it's just a tool. That's it. The real magic, the thing that makes it all work, is the guide, the facilitator, the person Gilly Salmon calls the e-moderator. It's the teachers skillfully guiding the whole process.
And being a great e-moderator isn't easy. It takes a very specific set of skills. Things like weaving. That's when a teacher can take a comment from one student over here and another one from over there and weave them together into one coherent conversation. Or probing. Not just taking the first answer, but asking, okay, but why do you think that? To get deeper. And summarizing, which is just pulling out the most important points after a big discussion so everyone's clear. This is not about clicking buttons, folks. This is high-level teaching.
And all of this brings us to one last big question to leave you with. As tech like AI and other digital tools get smarter and more powerful, what is the one thing, the truly irreplaceable thing, that a human teacher brings to the table?